Okay, we'll get started. Our main topic today is going to be mobile power or phone power management by Chuck Scott. Before we get to his presentation, we'll cover a few club agenda items. Our next meeting is going to be Wednesday, April 18th, and that'll be here in the Baltic Room again. It'll be on Bluetooth by Mike Griffin and Jim Holman are going to be giving that. We also will have a free sandwich lunch will be served. We are looking for someone to pick up pop and water and ice. The club will reimburse, so it's not out of your pocket or anything. It's just a matter of picking up the pop and then delivering it for the meeting here. And the ice is for the coolers. Usually we like, if we can, keep it cool there. And you can see Stan Miller. Stan's in the back there if you want to help, or see myself or Jim there, and that if you want to pick up the water or pop there. The topic on Bluetooth, it'll be what is Bluetooth, because on your phone and on your tablet, everybody's got Bluetooth. You use it for headphones, you use it for speakers, you use it for connecting other devices within the house. So there's lots of things that it's used for. They'll cover a number of those topics there. We also have a monthly MAC SIG meeting and MAC Special Interest Group. The next one is April 27th in the 201 auditorium. They usually set their agenda just before the meeting there. Our officers, our president is Jim Holman there in the middle. Linda Brown is our vice president. I don't see Linda here. Paul Ebert is our membership secretary. He couldn't make it today. Mike Griffin leads the MACSIG and is our treasurer. Stan Miller in back there is our secretary. Andrew Petrucci is our communication coordinator. My name's Tom Kreitzer. I'm a director at large. Members old and new, you can pay your dues to Paul. Since Paul isn't here, you can give it to Jim or myself, and we'll get it to Paul. Also a reminder, if you're changing your email, make sure and notify us, because that's how we send out meeting notices and our monthly e-bites and that with the email that you've told us. If you have suggestions for topics, you can email them, talk to any of the board members. We're always looking for people to volunteer to present on hardware or software. Could be stuff that you use at work or at home. If you don't want to present, we do have our monthly e-bites newsletter. You can write a short or a long article and we'll put it in there. We do have our website, and that's listed on the back of the handout and in the emails that we send out. If you miss any of the meetings or want to review some of the meetings, slides, those are all out there. Usually we try and record it, so that's also out there. The deal section is there. The monthly newsletter, the e-bites, is out there. If you do have any tips or hints or questions, favorite links, you can send them to myself, and I'll make sure they get added into the next newsletter there. Any club questions before we get to the main topic? Okay. Our main topic is going to be mobile power management, and Chuck Scott is going to be our presenter. So we can welcome Chuck up here. You can use the page up, page down space, any of the mouse. Or...
Oh, thank you for being here. One of the things that hopefully you wonder about is how in the world anybody gets themselves in a position where they make a presentation like this. Well, I had a sort of innocent conversation with Tom, and suggesting a topic, and I thought I was suggesting a topic, and pretty soon, in a moment of weakness, I found out I was going to be presenting. So that's how I found myself here. So as introduction, power on your phone is an issue for almost everybody. Have you ever noticed, when I first retired 5 years ago, you'd walk into a restaurant And all the older people like me, you didn't have a phone in their hand. They probably didn't even have a phone in their pocket. But now you look around, everybody's got one of these things. It doesn't make any difference how old they are, and they're always looking at it, and it's become a big part of their life. It's a big issue for almost everybody that mobile phones take up power, and if you don't watch them, they can run out of energy before you even know it. Very useful for what you do in a day-to-day life is all the functionality that you find on that phone. Optimal management of power consumption is sometimes really critical. So you find yourself by the side of the road and you look at your phone and all of a sudden it's down to like 2% power, you're in trouble. Device functionality is increasing rapidly, and along with that increased functionality and all the apps that you start loading on your phone, it starts consuming power. Most users wish to have effective power management. Understanding where and how energy is used on your phone is very helpful if you want to be able to continue to use it. Oops, wrong one. Okay, just a few words about myself because not everybody knows me. I retired from 3M IT in 2012 as a project manager. I have lots of interests. I lead the Oakdale Pickleball Club, even though I live out near Stillwater in Baytown Townships. I do canoe trips. I go to canoeing 3 times a year, most years. I've got 2 grandsons. I really enjoy retirement because it gives me a chance to keep my friendships active. I go to lunch with friends like Tom and others. Active at church. I lead the adult Sunday school program at our church. And I love classic cars. And by the way, if you're looking for a really good way to spend a lot of money, buy yourself a classic car, which I did a little bit more than a year ago. And that's it up there. That's a 1956 Star Chief Custom Safari, if you don't know what that is. That's equivalent to the Pontiac or the Chevrolet Nomad. All right. So, causes of battery consumption. Size matters. Okay, battery capacity is severely restricted to its small size. So it's nice to have a small device so it fits in your pocket, but that does put some constraints on how much power you can put into that battery. Smartphones provide almost PC-like capacity. In fact, my daughter, she never uses a PC. She doesn't use a desktop computer. She does everything on her phone. Voice communication, audio video recording, playback, web browsing, texting, email, turn-by-turn directions. If you don't have that built into your car, you can use your phone for turn-by-turn directions. You can use it as a camera. The camera capability in your phone is superior to what you can buy for many of the cheaper phones that you pay $100 or more dollars for. And it's getting better every year with every release of a new phone. Music play and much more rich diverse applications are available on your phone. All that rich functionality does put a pressure on your battery lifetime, how long it's going to last, because it's constantly drawing down the power. And the more that you draw down your power and recharge and draw it down and recharge it, that does shorten its life. Okay, this is your life. Remember the old TV show? Those of you that are old like me. Now like I said, you go in a restaurant, the phone is your life kind of thing. It's built, by the way, to be potentially addictive. So you really want to try to draw some borders around this thing, but it is a part of your life. Main impact on battery usage. Majority of power consumption is communications and the display. Display includes the LCD, liquid crystal display panel, and your touchscreen. You have a graphics accelerator inside of your phone, and the backlight. Other issues that affect the battery, and it's going to vary by manufacturer. The iPhone experience as opposed to what you see in a Samsung, they're going to be different. My wife's phone, she seems to do all sorts of stuff, and her battery lasts better than mine. By the way, it was kind of one of the things that started me on this adventure to try to figure out what was going on with my phone. And it varies by the kind of applications and how many applications you have on your phone and how you use your phone. You know, if you're on it all the time, obviously that's going to use more power. Battery issues in the news. I don't know if everybody noticed it. There was an issue a few months ago about how Macintosh had purposely slowed down older iPhone performance, and that was a result of they wanted to make sure that the batteries didn't go down because they put a new release of their operating system in. And it took them a while before they actually admitted that, but it actually did happen. And now they've given people some incentives to go to the brand new phone. So if you have an iPhone and you don't have a newer battery, you can go to Macintosh and get one for less money than what it normally would cost.
I went over to the iPhone store and they've extended that up to the end of the year. And still selling it
$29 is what it is? Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't recall what it was, but I knew that they'd given a really nice price break on those. The question, sorry, I was reminded here. The question was, or it wasn't really a question, the fact that the price is now still $29 for a new battery, and they've extended how long they're offering that. Test of power usage and suspend mode. Okay, I took a look online when I was doing a little bit of research for this presentation, and I came across a study that showed how phone usage really happens. And I've got the chart down in the lower right-hand corner there that shows that. If you have a phone that's not being actively used, that's called being in suspense mode, means the application processor is idle. Communication processor performs a low level of activity and remains connected to the network, so you can still receive calls and SMS, text messages, etc. The communications is the biggest user in that particular instances. Now, this particular study did use a GSM type phone. That's what they use in Europe. But your experience with a US phone, which would be a CDMA, would be equivalent to that. In idle mode, which the phone is fully awake, but it doesn't have any applications that are active. So if you were to use your phone, you had it turned on and it showed the display and you didn't have any you closed or killed all your applications. Communications to this point is 22%. And your graphics processing is the biggest, now jumps up and is the biggest contributor of usage of power when you're in idle mode. The liquid crystal, the LCD display, is the number 3 power user in that particular instance. There are some notoriously hungry apps that use a lot of power. Graphics, in other words, painting the stuff that you see, the nice pretty images that you see on a mobile phone. Navigation, turn-by-turn directions are notoriously power hungry. Anytime you do anything to communicate with the internet, you're going through your service provider, Verizon or Sprint or whatever it may be, you're using a radio. Whether it's Wi-Fi or it's GPS or Bluetooth, you have a Bluetooth connection to a server, so that all happens by way of a radio. Video, YouTube streaming, your favorite TV show, watching a movie of your grandkids when they were in the last concert, all that stuff takes time. Another one that's really can take a lot of energy. Excuse me, I meant energy in my previous comment. Software updates. What?
It takes time.
It takes time too. Yes, that was a Freudian slip, is what it was. You ever done a software update of the operating system where you get a new release? Do you ever notice that when you do that, you can have it plugged in, and at the end of the update, you'll start out the update at 100% power, and at the end of the update, you're at like 50%? Anybody ever notice that? I've noticed that. That's happened several times. Sometimes when you have a operating system update, it drops off so much power that it can actually draw down the power even though it's plugged in and started out at 100%. AVG, which is they're a provider of security software, they identified several power-hungry applications. They identified Samsung Link, Samsung Security Policy Update, Beaming Service for Samsung, Chat On, Google Maps, Facebook, WhatsApp, WeChat, AppLock, and the BlackBerry Messenger. That's a list of applications they identified. One thing to pick out of this list, you notice that there's a strong presence on that list of social media apps. Social media apps are big consumers of power. Okay, so you probably don't recognize the top 3 apps on the list. They come with Samsung phones and are probably running on your phone in the background and you don't even know it. I've done a little digging when I was trying to figure out what was going on with my phone and run across some of these built-in Samsung applications myself. They're out there performing tasks for you, you don't even realize it. So what are the power pigs that are on your own phone? If you were to go to settings, click on battery, look for apps that are currently using more power than you expect. Okay, if you use that app frequently, maybe that makes sense. But if you don't recognize what it is, that might be something to look into. So if you have an iPhone, the way to you look into the battery usage, on your iPhone there's a battery app usage application that you can get onto from the home screen. You tap on the battery icon, okay, after hitting settings, and then you can find some details, including, it'll show details that's really nice is to break it down by history, by a number of days. If you have an Android Android phone, which I have, you can open the settings, the tap battery option, and out of that you can review a list of applications and how much power that they use. And see on this example here, it shows it's used 6% power for the screen. For the Android OS, it's using 2%. That really helps you to kind of understand what's going on with your phone. Your Android phone settings may look a little different. It kind of depends on what release you have, and in some cases what your provider is. Some cases your battery settings will allow you to do a fix now. And I took a screenshot from my phone, and you can see on the right hand side of the screen there that it has a fix now, and you can stop apps from draining power when you're not actively using them. This can be either good or it can be bad. Can be a problem if you have an application that you rely to work in the background for you on your behalf, like the first app I have on the top of that example right there. That's an application I use to track all the tasks I have to get done in the day. And I update that both on my desktop computer, and I also do it on my phone. And I really want those to be in sync all the time because I don't want to have to log on and I think, oh, well, where's that task? I can't find it. I wanted to do that now that I'm back at my desk because I put it into my phone when I was watching TV. Well, I don't want to have to always remember to go on a refresh. I want to make sure those things are synced up all the time. Strategies to mitigate battery drain include things like you can get help. I've done this. You can walk into your phone service provider. You can walk into T-Mobile or any of the rest of them and say, I don't understand what's going on. Can you help me out? And they should be able to help you. I mean, after all, you're paying good money for your phone, and you should get some service and some help from those people. Ask them to diagnose the health of your phone battery. Yes? The question is, there's a big penalty for keeping a couple thousand pictures on your phone. There might be a penalty for that, but I don't know that it's in terms of power usage. I've never seen anything that data is related to power usage. You have synchronization going on between, yeah. And yeah, that's a different topic, and maybe that's the one we could look at for a different. Yep. 1% photos, and that's in terms of data or power usage? Power usage, okay. That's really pretty respectable. Yeah. Tom?
The package that I recommend for Apple or Android is Google Photos, and that has an option in there to only sync photos and that when you're plugged in and on a local area network. So you can turn on
Oh,
those two things, which then means that you're not using any of your battery to sync photos.
Okay.
But again, you have to understand what you're doing. What that also means is if you took a lot of photos during the day and then launched your phone, they wouldn't have been backed up and they wouldn't be up on the cloud.
Yep, I guess I misunderstood. You're right. The synchronization part, yeah, definitely would be a power drain.
That's a power user.
Yep.
The physical fact that you have 1,000 photos
Right.
or 10,000 photos is not going to do anything. If you're sitting there viewing the photos all the time, that's consuming power.
Yeah, because those are images, right? Anytime you're looking at all your photos, if you're looking through them, and which I do periodically, then yeah, that definitely will use a lot of power. You can stop in at your Apple store if you have an iPhone and have them help. The other, and I just included this because not everybody's aware of it. True confessions, I don't have a PC on my desk at home. I have an Apple. I have an iMac, which I really love, and that may be a different discussion for a different time, but I found these guys, Team Technology in Woodbury. And so if you don't want to drive out to Rosedale or you don't want to drive down to Mall of America or Ridgedale, you can go right down over here to right over behind Aldi's, and Team Technology can help you out with Apple related stuff. They do have an application called Coconut Battery that can kind of tell you what's going on with your phone, which they can install for you. You can't install that yourself. And you can also install Apple Support app. You can start sessions with the Apple Support person, and this report then can be generated back to your support person. So Apple has some nice tools for an iPhone. I don't have an iPhone, but they have some nice tools that you can use to help you to diagnose battery problems. So if you're running into them, these are the kinds of things you should look at. Try to figure out what's going on with your phone. Android battery diagnostics apps are probably the closest to have to what I talked about for the Apple. I use that top one listed, the AccuBattery. I found that to be really useful. Gives you good diagnosis. I can probably find out all the same things I can with AccuBattery just by looking at settings and then battery. But AccuBattery packages it up nice, makes it easy to read, makes it easy to kind of figure out what's going on. So you may want to look at a battery monitoring app because it'll tell you things like the health of your battery. It'll tell you what apps are sucking power out of it. I listed some others that I saw. I haven't used those. I can't tell you whether they're good or they're bad. I do know when I used AccuBattery, it itself in monitoring uses just like 1% or less of your power. So it's worth it, I think. So as I mentioned, you can use things like My Verizon app is another application that you can use that allows you to look at your battery usage. So if you have a Verizon phone, I don't know what other providers have for applications, but they may have something similar. But you could look at how much screen time out, what your screen timeout setting is, and adjust that as you need to. You can look at your screen brightness settings, see what that is, and adjust it. Look at your wallpaper and how that's affecting your power consumption. And the apps that delay your sleep mode, all those things are good diagnosis items to look at, including any connectivity battery drains that occur. So app benefits. They're a simpler way of diagnosing battery issues and will almost always suggest some ways that you can improve battery performance. So battery settings, basically your power saving modes, you can either have it set off or you can have it set at mid or max. Off just means it's running full tilt and it's not trying to conserve any power. These settings will affect your phone and vary somewhat based on who you purchased the phone from. So if you have a T-Mobile phone or a Verizon phone, your experience may vary. and also will vary by your operating system. So this is like everything else, your experience may vary. One of the things to look at is decreasing your brightness. So if you turn the brightness down, it will help you. You can use the auto brightness setting. That will help you to conserve battery power. You can use the speed limiting setting. You can turn off background network usage. Just be careful about which ones you do that with, like I was mentioning in my example. You can customize these settings individually. What I would encourage you to do is to try to experiment a little bit. Turn off background notifications. See what happens. See if the applications still perform in a way that allows you to do the things you always do and doesn't impair your ability or usability of the phone. Questions to consider. Can you live with degraded brightness? You know, if your eyes are really good and you're under 50, turn the brightness way down, and if it still is easy to read, that will help. If you can live with tasks not operating the way that you expect, in other words, they don't synchronize right away, maybe that's okay. As long as you don't, like Tom's example, where you don't start losing your precious images because you lost your phone or got stepped on or something. Yes, Tom?
You say turn background network usage off. Did you mean notifications?
That's what I mean by that is notifications, yes.
Okay, because I mean, you can
Right.
turn your network on and off, and that's
that's
huge saving in battery life.
Yep, and that can also you can, for example, turn off Bluetooth
Wi-Fi.
or Bluetooth. Right. The only problem with it, and I don't do that because if you turn off Bluetooth, I get in the car, like to come to this meeting, I'm going, okay, I get to the meeting. I don't think about turning the Bluetooth back on. Okay, so I'm in the car and all of a sudden the phone's going to go off. Okay, and it's not going to be using Bluetooth, and I really want to use Bluetooth because then with the Bluetooth, then it comes through the speakers for my radio, and I can do hands-free. Well, if I don't have Bluetooth set on, that doesn't function. So I seldom turn off the networks, the radios, although you can. Maximum power setting mode, that's the same as the mid-type setting. You're disconnected from Wi-Fi, eliminates many graphics, your wallpaper is gone, some icons disappear. I tried that, I experimented with that. I don't recommend it. You can take a look at it. It's really pretty basic. It takes away a lot of the nice, pretty images from your mobile phone. I did a little digging around in this and saw some other people had experience with this, and they flat out couldn't find some of their apps after they went into maximum power settings, maximum power saving settings. Other strategies to mitigate battery drain. The easy solution is buy a new phone. The only difficulty with buying a new phone is some of the very same problems you're dealing with today may return, because what do you typically do? At least what I do. You go into Target or you go into Verizon or you go into T-Mobile or someplace and say, I want a new phone. I want a Samsung 99, all right? And you give him your old phone and he's got the new phone. Yep, and he does this. He connects the two together and he ports over all your apps and your settings and everything else. Well, voila, maybe the same problems you had before will return to that new phone. It's an expensive solution and problems can return. A new battery costs generally $30 to $40 for Android, a lot cheaper than buying a new phone. In some cases that might be good, particularly if you look at that battery app monitor and you see that your health of your battery is not very good. That's something to consider. Oh, and I did have $29 in my notes here for the iPhone program. Run your applications within a web browser. This I strongly recommend that you do. I like Facebook. I use Facebook. I'm connected to like 650 people. I use it to connect to my nephews and nieces that are in other parts of the United States. But I always run it. If I use it on the phone, I run it through a web browser. I use Chrome. You could use whatever you like. But through your web browser, go into Facebook. Don't use the Facebook app. Anything that you can use in a browser is going to be better than using the native app. It's going to use less power. I found that out the hard way. Particularly Facebook Messenger. Avoid that thing if you can. In my experience, it really sucks a lot of power off your phone. Close apps when you're finished with them. I try to do as a habit. When I'm ready to turn my phone off, I back out of everything, and then I click in the left hand, for me on an Android phone, click in the bottom left hand corner, shows what apps you have that are still there even though you backed out of them, and you close everything. That will help you to conserve power. If that's a kind of a habit that you get into, then that works. Question? Mm-hmm. Yeah, the question was if sometimes you'll get, there'll be either a message that says this is only available, this story is only available in Messenger, or somebody's sending you a video that you want to see maybe from your grandkids. The only way to get through with Messenger, yep. What I do is I wait until I get on my desktop and look at them there. I don't want to really look at them on my phone anyway, so that's how I handle it, is I wait till I'm on the desktop. But you're right. There are some limitations from all these strategies, including that one. Tom?
The biggest culprit there is the notifications within Messenger. So if you go into the Messenger app and turn off all notifications, but that also means that it's not constantly going out to look to see whether you have any new messages. You have to either go out and do it, or you have to bring up Facebook, and Facebook will tell you, oh, you got 2 new messages, and then open up Messenger. So the biggest thing in almost all these apps is the notification process in the background. They're constantly running. They're constantly accessing the network. And if your network has a Wi-Fi connection, that means it's draining, sending and receiving signals from the Wi-Fi all the time. And if you have a weak connection to a cell phone tower, that means it's having to send a lot more power to get the data and bring it down. So that's the biggest culprit. It's not necessarily the application itself, or when you go in and read it. But
Yep. Tom's, this is for the recording.
Yeah.
Tom's comment is the biggest culprit here is really the notifications. It's not the application itself, and that's correct.
And I guess another point that you made, shutting down or stopping applications, that doesn't stop the notification capability. So that notification capability, even though you won't see it in the running, it's a running app, it's software running in the background constantly checking.
That's also true if you get to a dead spot. And
Oh,
you're
yeah.
able for a while, you notice that's constantly searching
Right.
for the power, and the battery power.
Yep. Yeah. Have you ever noticed when you get into a dead zone? I know, I almost always know when I'm in a dead zone. You know why?
Battery goes down.
No. No, it's because I keep the phone in my pocket here. It's warm. That's exactly right. When my phone starts to heat up, I know there's a problem. Okay, because it's burning up battery power like crazy. So yeah, you're absolutely correct. When you get a dead zone, it's trying to use that radio to make a connection to a cell tower, and it can't make it. It doesn't know any better. It just keeps trying. Tom.
And it keeps switching because it goes 3G, 4G, and if your service has Wi-Fi, it keeps going between the three, trying to make a connection. And it does that probably 100 times a minute or more. So that's what's eating up a lot of power.
Okay. Other strategies, keep your phone cool. Even though it's not maybe searching for a signal, if your phone does get above 95 degrees, that does hurt the battery. You try to keep it cooler if you can. Keep it out of the sun. Reduce your screen timeout so that when you're done with your screen, you lay down your phone, you forget to turn it off. The shorter that interval before it automatically turns off, the better. Some screens will continue to be active as long as you even look at them. Some of the phones have the functionality, so with its camera, it knows that you're looking at it. And certainly as long as you're using it, it's going to remain active. So don't worry about, dropping the timeout. You can drop that down. One of the things that you can probably live without is something called haptic feedback, the vibration mode that you get from pressing the buttons, and it also does in other cases, it does things to tell your hand that it's doing something. If you turn that off, there's some settings that you can do. If you go into settings, you can find the haptic feedback. Turn that off, that will help save some power. I've turned mine off. It seems to be just as functional. Investigate the power saving mode. It can, depending on what you do, it can be more frustrating, but try the middle type settings. Turn off phone vibrations. Turn off your radios. Tom mentioned that when you're not needing them. Turn off location. You can turn off here's your location settings. You can turn that off. I turn them off on my phone, and then when it needs something like for weather, you can turn it back on and then turn it off again. It's not that hard to do. Can be a problem if you don't remember to turn them back on, and that's the example I used before. That's why I never turn off Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, because I always want to have those active. Because for me, I don't remember to turn them back on again when I need them. And I don't want to try to turn them on while I'm driving the car. Other strategies you can use, reboot every once in a while. I really should do this. I personally don't do it very often because I don't think about it. I just plug my phone in and then it's up and live and running the next morning, and I don't worry about it, but you really should reboot it every once in a while. It helps to clear out your processes. Yes? If you're having a problem you just can't fix, yeah, then take your battery out. I don't think that's related necessarily to power consumption. Pardon? That will reboot it, right? But you can completely reboot it. You can do you keep the power button held down. It says, "Do you want to restart?" And that'll do a reboot. The question was, should I ever take the battery out? If you're having a big problem, that's not related to power usage, but sometimes an app will get hung up. You can't kill it no matter what. That's I've done that before. We just take the battery out. Tom talked about turning off notifications. Individually go into apps and turn off notifications that you can live without. And social media apps are the huge offenders. Tom mentioned that. Facebook, Twitter, G+. All of those have notifications in them. If you can live without them, get rid of them. Turn them off. Kill apps. Uninstall apps that you never use. I have an app in my phone called Briefing for Samsung. And when I got the phone, it came automatically with a Samsung phone. And I thought, well, that's kind of neat. Let me see what that looks like. So I started it up, looked at it. It was kind of nice because it gives you kind of synopsis of news and other things that you're interested in. But then I noticed it's doing a lot of background data usage and then also drawing out power. And I wanted to get rid of it, so I thought, well, I'll just uninstall it. Well, I couldn't uninstall the thing, but what you can do is you can disable an application. So I disable the application, then I just make sure I never do an update to it. So you can do that same thing for built-in apps. If you can't uninstall them, you can disable them. And whenever you can run an app inside of a browser, generally speaking, that's more efficient than running them as a native app. Okay, we talked about turning down the brightness, and auto brightness is something you can look at. That's why I have mine set out, so it kind of ups and downs the battery depending on how much ambient light you have around. Brightness settings with a lower setting is always better. There is an exponential relationship between brightness and power consumption. So what that means, and that's the chart that's shown here, instead, it isn't linear. Linear would be a graph would look like this, a straight line, like a triangle. Exponential says as I add more and more brightness, the power consumption goes up at a steeper angle than the additional brightness that I have it set at. Other strategies, you can charge your battery to 80% rather than 100%. this will make your battery last longer, but it can be inconvenient. I don't do this. I know that, you know, they've done multiple studies on this, and it's better for making your battery last longer. But I don't really want to make managing my phone a full-time, well, I shouldn't say full-time, a part-time job. I just plug it in, and when it's charged, it's charged. I don't worry about this, but I do know that if you do that, it will make your battery last longer. Well, that's the implication here, is that it shortens the battery life of having your battery charged in overnight, but that's what I do also. I'm willing to live with it. I'm willing to say, okay, at some point I'm going to have to spend the, you know, $40 or $80 or what it is to replace the battery. Yes?
What is the life of a battery on a typical phone today?
Yeah. So,
Yeah, most people it's 3 years. Roughly, that's what a phone company will roughly say. But certainly the other factors like Chuck mentioned, heat. If
right.
your phone is overheating, your battery is going to be destroyed faster. If you run it completely down, that's going to
right.
affect the recharging capability a little bit. So your results may vary.
No,
some people get
right.
5 years on a battery and no problem, and others it's 2 years. So somewhere I'd say somewhere between.
Yeah. So the question was, let me just capture the question. The question was, how long can I expect my battery to last? And my answer was going to be, your results will vary, not may vary. I think your results will vary, and it varies by all sorts of factors like, do you run it all the way down to 0 before you charge it again? Do you charge it every day? Do you use it all the time? And all those things are going to make a difference to it. Okay. You had a question?
Well, I was just going to make a comment too about charging it overnight. If you're charging your phone to 100%, most of them too, once they get to 100%, they do stop charging. So leaving it connected at that point, from that point on,
sure.
won't affect it beyond that. It's just the fact that you're charging it to 100%.
Yep. So the comment was that if you charge your battery to 100%, that won't hurt it if you keep it plugged in, because it won't try to push it past 100% back.
Just make sure you use a quality charger.
Oh, yes.
Some of the cheap chargers don't allow the phone to do that.
Yeah.
Yep. Generally use the one from your manufacturer. Circuitry that keeps it from overcharging.
Yep. Yeah, the comment was make sure you use a quality charger, and I would say also use a charger that's compatible with your phone. I didn't even think about that until you mentioned that. But I do know that some chargers are incompatible with your phone, and you can actually damage your phone battery by using it. So you want to be a little cautious about going to Kmart and picking up a charger and say, well, let's see what happens here. It may not operate the way you want it to. Strategies you can also use, plugging your phone into a power source during the day. If you tried other things and you can't keep the phone charged, you know, I've got a charger that I've got one in the car, which I never use, but I got one in the car. I've got one in the family room where we watch TV, which I every once in a while use, and I've got one up in my bedroom where I plug it in every night. It's good to have multiple chargers. You know, put one in the kitchen if you spend a lot of time in the kitchen. It's good. It's a good way to do it. Pretty easy to do if you're sitting there for any length of time. Just plug it in, and it makes it so that you have a charged up phone most of the time. Okay, you can perform some you can perform some tasks while you're still plugged in. So now, for example, in the morning when I get up, I have a kind of a routine that I do with my phone every day. A quick look at email. I look at weather for the day. I look to see if I have any software upgrades that I have to do, any app upgrades that I have to do. I try to do this right away before I unplug the phone and go about my daily activities. And it's pretty easy because it's just sitting there next to the bed. It's a technique you can try. Try battery app or settings to see what's consuming power. I mentioned that before. Make adjustments based on what you see. try some things, see if they work out. It's pretty hard to get yourself in a hole where you can't get back out of again. You know, I generally say, though, try one thing at a time so that you don't get confused about, well, I turned off all my notifications and nothing works anymore. Well, that's probably, you probably won't want to do that. Try turning off notifications in one app. See if that works pretty good for you. Then maybe try another app and it work that way. It makes it easier to understand what you've done and what the effect is of that. For more information, and here's some of the things that I dug out when I was looking on the internet. People don't need better. You don't need to have libraries anymore. You can find everything on the internet, right? Okay, these are kind of useful if you want to take a little time to look at a couple of these things. A couple sources, and they're also in the handout. Any other final questions?
Well, thank you, Chuck. And it's always interesting to see different perspectives of who's doing what and that. And I think just to reiterate what Chuck was talking about, don't turn all your notifications for everything off. So you may have, let's say you've got 50 apps on your phone or 100 apps on your phone. There's probably one or two of them that are consuming the most power on your phone. Play with those, turn them off, or try some of the different settings in the notification, because notifications, you're probably familiar. Will it vibrate? Will it do a tone? Does it show up on your screen? What does it do to notify you? Well, each of those consumes a different amount of electricity or battery life there. So reducing or figuring out what you can get away with, that's what's going to make your battery last longer. And if you're looking for phones, certainly there's phones that do have bigger batteries. So if you look at a phone, it'll say the size of the battery in there. So if there's different models, in this case, this is a Moto phone. The Moto 4s have smaller than the 5s, but this particular model I bought because it had the longest battery life. I can get almost 2 days on average out of the battery out of this phone, and that means that I don't have to play a lot of games with power and things like that in there. But again, depending on what you're doing, if you like to watch a lot of video, or you watch live TV or things like that on your phone, that takes a lot of power there. And certainly try out some of the tips and do some of the things in there. Okay, any other questions about the club or power or any other tips people might have? Okay, thank you. We'll see you next time.
Going to get